In a recent podcast interview, Harry Potter actress Emma Watson finally detailed her complicated feelings on J.K. Rowling. The author then responded this morning, trashing the ignorant Emma Watson. Welcome to Popcorn Planet. I am Andy Signor. Look, this is a hot topic. It's one where people have strong opinions on both sides. So I want to break down what both have actually said, share a little bit of my opinions, because I do believe both aren't being fully honest. I think emotions are just running hot, and I want you guys to make up your own opinion. Let's start with the most recent interview from Emma Watson, where she was asked. Let's put the full context here, because JK is going to be responding to this. Here's the full context from the Jay Shetty Podcast.
So many conversations and comments directly from J.K. Rowling, whether it's her saying she'd never forgive you for your views, or the fact that when she was asked what ruins the movies for her, she named yourself and some of your co-stars. And
now, fact check that. I want to fact check both those things, because yes, that's true. She did do that. What actress instantly ruins a movie for you? 3 guesses. Sorry, but that was irresistible. Now, she didn't actually name them. She didn't. Now, she heavily alludes to it. So both sides are correct. I don't think J.K. Rowling can try to claim that she didn't try to bash the Harry Potter actors. That's clearly what we all assumed, as she knew, friggin' savage, as all the comments go. So she did have her way there to respond to this. She also did say she would never forgive them. When the cast review came forward, you can read this full chat over there as if you want to pause and read her opinions on this. She was celebrating this law change. And then someone just said, well, just waiting for Dan and Emma to give you a very public apology, safe in the knowledge that you will forgive them. And JK responded, not safe, I'm afraid. Celebs who cozied up to a movement intent on eroding women's hard-won rights and who used their platform to cheer on the transitioning of minors can save their apologies for traumatized detransitioners and vulnerable women reliant on single-sex spaces. So making it clear, I will not forgive them. That was clearly what made the headlines. These were 2 very anti-comments she did make back. So this idea that she never really spoke about them before isn't entirely true. She has taken some shots back, and she's allowed to, but this isn't the first response she's given, just full clarity. But then he asked, how did those comments make you feel? He did prompt all this. He asked her straight out, what did you think about her saying these things about you?
I really don't believe that by having had that experience and holding the love and support and views that I have mean that I can't and don't treasure Joe and the person that I had personal experiences with. I will never believe that one negates the other, and that my experience of that person I don't get to keep and cherish.
All fair comments so far. I got to offer my commentary here for fair use purposes. She didn't even mention her by name, Joe. She's giving her own personal beliefs here, and this is clearly an emotional opinion where she's very carefully choosing her words.
To come back to our earlier thing, I just don't think these things are either or. I think it's my deepest wish that I hope people who don't agree with my opinion will love me, and I hope I can keep loving people who I don't necessarily share the same opinion with. And I think that's a very, very important way for me that I need to be able to move through life. I just really, to circle back around, I really do believe in having conversations, and that those are really important, and that
she's squinting a lot because it doesn't sound like she ever tried to have a conversation with J.K. Rowling, to J.K.'s defense.
I don't know. I guess where I've landed is it's not so much what we say or what we believe, but very often how we say it that's really important. And that's really frustrating and not what you want to hear when you're really angry and upset with someone. But I don't know. I just see this world right now where we seem to be giving permission for this kind of like growing out of people or that people are disposable.
I mean, that was a long time ago, and a lot of people like you were encouraging it, to be fair as well. I'm glad so many people are waking up to the idea that cancel culture is bad.
And I just think I will always think that's wrong. I just believe that no one's disposable.
Mm.
And everyone, as far as possible, whatever the conversation is, should and can be treated with, at the very least, dignity and respect.
Now, that's the big moment there, I think, that probably peed off J.K. Rowling. So here's J.K.'s response. And I'm going to have an old clip of Emma's I'm going to play for full context of everything you're understanding here. But here's what J.K. said in response to that. Now, she actually shared a different clip here.
But Emma Watson was careful, wasn't she, not to go too far. I think what she's going to find now is you can't sit on the fence. She was a real cheerleader for Mermaids, the charity, and for transitioning children and for people knowing who they are.
There's also kind of there's that clip of her at the BAFTAs, and it was just kind of like a really snidey, there's that bit where she says, I'm here for all the witch, like, but one. Or what, yeah.
Yeah.
In fact, I'll play it now. Here is that clip in question, which was not in hindsight the best.
I'm here for all of the witches.
She did mouth just there. She stood her ground. Look how happy she is to do it then. That's the problem. Now, she could regret that now, and she's allowed to, and good for her if she does.
It's just nasty.
Yeah.
Right when J.K. Rowling was getting a lot of rape threats, death threats.
So whether she is trying to row back from that full-hearted support for transitioning children, or whether she's just trying to get back in with J.K. Rowling in the hope of work, who knows? Richard Dawkins is an interesting case.
But anyway, they go and this is for their beliefs. That's neither here nor there. J.K. Rowling responds, and I wanted you to have that so you know the full context as you read J.K.'s response. I'm seeing quite a bit of comment about this, so I want to make a couple of points. I'm not owed eternal agreement from any actor who once played a character I created. The idea that is as ludicrous as me checking with the boss I had when I was 21 for what opinions I should hold these days. Emma Watson and her co-stars have every right to embrace gender identity ideology. Such beliefs are legally protected, and I wouldn't want to see any of them threatened with loss of work or violence or death because of them. Good, right. However, here comes the but. Emma and Dan in particular, have made it very clear over the last few years that they think our former professional association gives them a particular right, nigh obligation, to critique me and my views in public. Years after they finished acting in Potter, they continue to assume the role of de facto spokespeople for the world I created. Well, I mean, pause right there just because they kind of are. They kind of are. It's unfair. And they were kids. They're still growing, and she's clearly trying to figure her own stuff out. She's left Hollywood. So I think it's a little harsh, but I see what she's coming from. But just trying to play both sides here. When you've known people since they were 10 years old, it's hard to shake a certain protectiveness. Until quite recently, I hadn't managed to throw off the memory of children who needed to be gently coaxed through their dialogue in a big, scary studio film. Kind of a shot there too, like you don't know what you're talking about. And probably true. For the past few years, I've repeatedly declined invitations from journalists to comment on Emma specifically, most notably on the witch trials of J.K. Rowling. Ironically, I told the producers that I didn't want her to be hounded as the result of anything I said. The television presenter in the attached clip highlights Emma's all witches speech, and in truth, that was a turning point for me, but it had a postscript that hurt far more than the speech itself. Emma asked someone to pass on a handwritten note from her to me, which contained a single sentence: "I'm so sorry for what you're going through." She has my phone number. This was back when the death and torture threats against me were at their peak, at a time when my personal security measures had to be tightened considerably, and I was constantly worried for my family's safety. Emma had just publicly poured more petrol on the flames, yet thought a one-line expression of concern from her would reassure me of her fundamental sympathy and kindness. Like other people who've never experienced adult life uncushioned by wealth and fame, Emma has so little experience of real life, she's ignorant of how ignorant she is. She'll never need a homeless shelter. She's never going to be placed in a mixed-sex public hospital ward. I'd be astounded if she's ever in a high-street changing room since childhood. Her public bathroom is single occupancy, and it comes with a security man standing outside the door. He has to strip off a newly changing room at a council room run swimming pool. If she ever likely to need a state-run R crisis center that refuses to guarantee an all-female service, to find herself sharing a prison cell with a male Rist who identified into the women's prison. I wasn't a multimillionaire at 14. I lived in poverty while writing the book that made Emma famous. Ouch. I therefore understand from my own life experience what the trashing of women's rights in which Emma has so enthusiastically participated means to women and girls without her privileges. The greatest irony here is that had Emma not decided in her most recent interview to declare that she loves and treasures me, a change of tack I suspect she's adopted because she's noticed full-throated condemnation of me is no longer quite as fashionable as it was, I might never have been this honest. I think this is where her emotions are shining through. That's a big assumption point, and I didn't get that vibe from her. I got a very carefully worded thing from Emma, but that's where I think both people are being very emotional behind the scenes. Adults can't expect to cozy up to the activist movement that regularly calls for a friend's assassination, then assert their right to the former friend's love as though the friend was in fact their mother. Emma is rightly free to disagree with me and indeed to discuss her feelings about me in public, but I have the same right, and I finally decided to exercise it. Well, again, calling her J.K. out, just for full honesty, you have previously called her out. To say that you haven't is a little bit of a lie. Maybe not in detail like you just did, a little bit more by name, but you have. And look, I think J.K. actually does say some things here that are fair. I think both sides have said things are fair. I think Emma Watson does sound better now because she's growing up. She wasn't, she's still aging. You get maturity in age. And I think, the world is learning and we should be encouraging the learning rather than punching down as people learn. It was always something frustrating about the cancel culture. And what's happening now is now people who are canceled are like, yeah, cancel the other side. No, we all have to come to a united front instead of just fighting with each other. And I wish Emma would have called JK and had more of a conversation and try to be more, send that in a text and not be afraid to talk to her. The fact that she wasn't does give me a little bit of a side eye to Emma. And she doesn't want to flat out apologize because she has strong feelings to go against that study that, that JK was celebrating. Here's the other thing, and I can't leave it on screen too long. The unalivement of that group is staggering after that thing was passed. So it goes both ways. And I'm not here to share my opinions on where I believe, because I think both sides do have strong points. And it's not something we can just sort of say one or the other. And I applaud JK for at least acknowledging, yes, we should have our opinions. I do think she's coming in pretty hot, and with fair reason too, because Emma did take some shots as herself as well, especially with this except for one. This is why it's so hot. And I wish both sides, maybe after this, Emma will take that humbling to actually attempt to call out and have a conversation or some tea with J.K. Rowling to try to finally bridge the gap and understand where she's coming from rather than just assuming she's the enemy, which is what I do still think Emma needs to do. And I hope Jo can continue to try to just rise above and not punch down when she's seemingly winning, because that doesn't help anybody either. Again, I think emotions are a little hot on both sides. I think both sides are being a little ignorant to what they actually said. And I think both sides need to talk. We all need to talk more about this topic. It's not one everybody's going to agree on. We got to be prepared for the other side, in my opinion. It's a complicated one. And so you can still believe in trans rights, but still have a conversation about biological women. Those are two things that kind of are impossible to just make both sides agree. They're not. So what do? We have to try to discuss and find ways to make everybody feel safe and warranted, right? And welcome. What do you think of all this? Who do you think is winning this argument though? JK, Emma? Do you think JK is being on point, a little bit too unfair? I want to hear your thoughts in the comments down below. Please be civil, hit the subscribe, hit the bell for alerts as well. Smash that thumbs up, leave your comments down below. Let me know what you think about the feud. And please, again, be civil in the comments and stay tuned. We got a lot more news coming your way.